Okay guys, so this is a picture of my telescope. I don't have the whole thing assembled here right now, so you've got to bear with me with this grainy picture. It's not a particularly expensive telescope or anything, it's just a run-of-the-mill kind of what they call pharmacy telescope or whatever that you buy from the shopping centre or the shopping mall, as you Americans call it. It's a pretty basic sort of reflector type affair, but I've used it for quite a few years now, just to look at planets and the moon and stuff. Got a little picture here of the moon. I believe that's the moon. Yes, that's how amateur I am as an astronomer. Hang on. Oh crikey, how do I zoom? There we go. We've kind of zoomed in there. So yeah, I mean, you can see there's quite a lot of detail there. It's not a bad little telescope, really. I have, though, had a problem with the tripod. I think that's what you call it. And the bit that down there, it holds some instruments, and it has some sort of plastic struts that go across to it. And they've all snapped to bits. So I'm kind of like, I've got it. Well, I'll show you in a second. I'll just show you a vid now of what's happened to it and the problem in hand. So this is my telescope at the moment. As you can see, down here, the tripod is pretty bust up. So using this is string just to hold it together. So you've got these are also snapped off, and this part in the middle is damaged. So it's just a case of repairing that, really. Okay guys, let's just talk through this project now in 3D in SolidWorks. I've modelled this assembly, essentially to be able to work out how everything's sort of interacting physically, but also to make the tool paths from the 3D parts for the mill, so that I can use the data from this directly to go into create toolpaths. So as you can see, it's a pretty simple affair. This is the area where you put your instruments, like I mentioned before. Got this sort of casting up the top and these aluminium legs. These yellow elements here, they act as sort of anchoring points for these struts, and which swivel in them. So those are actually riveted through to the first sort of wall here. In the real version, I'm going to be drilling right through with the fasteners, and then you've got these struts here. These are literally nothing more than just a profile cut with a hole at each end. This center sort of central section, just switch the this is again going to be pocketed out, so obviously that'll be sitting in, that will be facing upwards on our material. 25mm thick, I believe it's 25mm. Yeah, 25mm thick material. Aluminium probably, and so we'll do the whole thing in two machining operations. So it'll be pocketed out, and then we'll profile cut it out fully. The central hole, I'll just probably put I'll start the hole off, and then I'll drill it and tap it after it's come off the mill. And obviously these will be cut in afterwards. Drilled through afterwards. And these parts here will be the first part I'm going to mill. Those are going to be done out of Delrin. I actually looked at using nylon, and the first time I tried to mill any black nylon, I just got loads and loads of sort of little flakes. It got really furry, so I had to go with Delrin, which seems like a good alternative. But yeah, pretty simple part. So it's just going to be this is the top of the material. This will be pocketed out, and then there would be a profile cut around the outside. these will just be marked and then I'll drill them afterwards. And so that's how it's all going to go together. And then obviously, you know, got some nuts and bolts just to put it all together, which I haven't really bothered with too much in the model. So it should do something like this. Not that far yet, something like that, which is obviously how it's going to be stored, obviously how the original one worked. And that's it really. I've actually left these a little bit, you know, that's a little bit smaller, that width, than the width of the strut, so that I can just actually file those out carefully, just to get the right sort of feeling when it's in there and screwed together, because I don't want it just being really sloppy. So I thought, you know, it's harder to put material back on than it is to take it off, so we'll do it that way around. That's about it really. So it's a pretty simple little assembly, but I think it's a perfect thing to start sort of learning the mill. Okay, just a quick look at how the parts turned out. So basically, this is the first one I did, which isn't particularly good, admittedly. It started off well, apart from dragging the tool across there, which is a bit annoying. But essentially, I actually got the file wrong, the program wrong. I didn't cut it deep enough, so I end up having to actually hacksaw, or rather bandsaw the actual part out in the end, even down here a bit as well. So yeah, that kind of ruined the finish really. Not that these are amazing finishes anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's a usable part. It can be sort of fettled down and used, so it's fine really for what I need. This one, however, was a bit better again. Let's focus that. So there was a little problem here and here that you can see in the video as well if you look closely at that, and it slipped in the vise. So at the end you've got these burrs here which can be fettled off, but this did cut all the way through, and you can see the layers there. You kind of get a bit of a hairy finish even with this Delrin, but it's really a lot better than the nylon. And you can see the grain there on the top, although that is completely smooth there. With your finger you really can't feel that line going across there. Is literally a grain. So yeah, that turned out even better. So I mean, that's happy days really. We've got two parts there which can be used for the project. So I just need to make one more of those and then on to the other parts. I will upload a follow-up video to this, so please subscribe if you liked what you saw.